Now, there are many video game mechanics which are at least highly divisive, if not outright loathed by most players. Weapon degradation, rubber banding in racing games, and the worst of the lot, unskippable cutscenes. But on the flip side, there are many wonderfully creative and simply fun gaming mechanics which have vastly improved basically any game that they've ever appeared in. Now, it would be hyperbolic to suggest that every mechanic can absolutely positively improve every last possible game, but where the overwhelming majority of games are concerned, these mechanics will improve just about anywhere that they could feasibly appear. So let's take a look at them. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 awesome mechanics that will make all video games better. Number 10. Auto Loot. Loot is a major aspect of many modern action-adventure games, and it regularly feels like an absolute chore having to walk around picking up every last shiny neon-coloured goodie. It's a giant waste of time, tedious busy work that adds zero enjoyment to the experience. Add up all the time that you've spent picking up things in RPGs over the years, and that is hours and hours of listlessly playing fetch. As such, a growing number of games have begun introducing an auto-loot mechanic, whereby any wares within a set radius will be automatically hoovered up into your inventory, sparing you a precious second or two sifting through the pickup animation that nobody asked for. Beyond publishers wanting to cynically ensure that you get a dopamine hit each time that you stop to pick up a shiny thing, there's no conceivable reason why auto loot isn't the default mode for collecting weapons, gear, currency, collectibles, and so on. Number 9. Double Jump. It's bizarre that there are still some modern action games out there that don't let the player jump at all. For one, God of War Ragnarok, but double jumping should be an absolute standard in all platformers and fantastical action-adventure games. Sure, it makes no physical sense at all that you can propel yourself higher into the air while already in the air, save for Devil May Cry, which literally generates a magic platform in the air to jump off, but honestly, does anyone really care? Platformers like Crash Bandicoot exemplify just how damn satisfying it feels to double jump, adding in a layer of ridiculous yet awesome verticality to the experience. Physics be damned. Enhanced mobility has basically never ruined a game, so why wouldn't this be a default feature of every not realistic game where traversal and motion are important facets of the gameplay? Number 8. Parrying. Parrying feels like it should be a default feature of every video game with major focus on combat, because the joy of successfully nailing a perfectly timed parry and responding with a flurry of attacks is just the best. Some of the more robust parrying mechanics in modern games appear in the Batman Arkham series, Ghosts of Tsushima, and basically anything produced by From Software, where fending off an incoming attack with split-second timing is ultra-fluid and intuitive. Some games handle parrying better than others, and it can sometimes be frustrating figuring out a given enemy's attack timings, but when it clicks, it bloody clicks. Nothing will make you feel like an S-tier badass quite like fearlessly deflecting incoming attacks and responding with your own salvo, especially if the game rewards you for parrying with a buff or even a timed slowdown. It's certainly nice to have a bevy of options during combat, but there's nothing quite like some well-honed parry mechanics. Number 7. Fast travel. With open worlds being more prevalent than ever in the gaming sphere, it's never been more important for games to include fast travel systems, which allow players to speedily venture back to locales that they've previously visited. This, of course, can be done in many different ways with varying degrees of granularity. Some fast travel systems will only let you hop between delineated hub areas, while others will let you drop a pin anywhere on the map and instantaneously teleport there. But the total absence of fast travel feels majorly archaic in any contemporary game with a huge map, as it will most often force players to spend an obscene amount of time backtracking across the same damn patch of land. Exploration is of course the primary appeal of any open world title, but there comes a time when you just want to get where you've been before without having to go through the tiresome traversal rigmarole all over again. In a 50-hour RPG, for instance, is it really asking all that much to cut out some of the boring travelling? With game worlds being as mind-meltingly huge as they are these days, fast travel is an absolute must. Any developer that excludes this feature or gates it behind major in-game progress or makes it unnecessarily awkward, I'm looking at you, Horizon, here, is honestly just being a stubborn party pooper. Let people play how they want to play, damn it. Number 6. The Grappling Hook. The grappling hook is one of those gloriously evergreen mechanics that's just never going to feel old or tired, because it's so often been the glorious cherry on top of already fun games. Would the Just Cause franchise have been nearly as ludicrously entertaining without the ability to grapple onto a helicopter and hijack it? Elsewhere, pretty much everyone agrees that Halo Infinite would have been considerably less enjoyable without its wrist-mounted grapple shot, and using the meat hook to grab enemies in Doom Eternal is the absolute bee's knees. Imagine what mediocre slop like like Gotham Knights would have been without a grappling hook. Bloody awful, that's what. It's a simple device which gives the player so many more traversal and combat options, and in turn instantly makes any action game much more adventurous and exciting. Again, try naming a game ruined by a grappling hook. Even if the implementation isn't perfect, it's just not possible. Number 5. Story difficulty. Options are a very good thing no matter the video game, and one of the best gaming innovations in recent years has been the growing inclusion of story difficulty modes. This mode is typically one step below easy difficulty and will allow even the most inexperienced players the ability to get through the game without major frustration in order to experience the story. Now, canny developers will massively tone down the most challenging facets of gameplay and perhaps even remove tricky elements like puzzles and stealth entirely, ensuring every single player can at least witness the story unfold. Obviously, story difficulty isn't relevant for games with no narrative to speak of, but pretty much any game with even the faintest shred of story should absolutely have this accessibility feature. Yes, that also includes the Dark Souls games. Even as recently as 2017's Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus, players have been mocked as babies for picking the easiest difficulty, but above all else, it just makes financial sense for developers to include story difficulty modes, because it allows more people to buy and enjoy the game. If you're a story-driven game without story difficulty, well, you're shutting out willing customers and leaving money on the table. Number 4. Active reload. The Gears of War franchise innovated the third-person shooter in many ways, one of the most satisfying of which was its popularization of Active Reload. Active Reload is effectively a QTE minigame where you press the reload button during a strict window of time, and if you do it right, you'll reload your weapon faster and perhaps also receive a buff of some kind. It's tremendously satisfying to nail a perfect Active Reload, though the trade-off is that if you screw up a reload, your gun will jam for a few seconds, leaving you helplessly vulnerable to enemy attacks. Honestly, it's a mechanic which still feels underused in shooters as a whole, even with Gears of War creator Cliff Bleszinski encouraging other developers to freely use the mechanic years and years ago. Returnal recently reminded everyone just how fun and tactile Active Reload is, adding a neat layer of strategy to what's otherwise the most basic ingredient of any shooter. Number 3. Skippable Dialogue. There's nothing more infuriating than playing an RPG or generally dialogue-heavy game and being either forced to sit through all of the voiced dialogue or skip the whole lot with no in-between. But in recent years, more games have followed the lead of the Yakuza series, where outside of the bespoke cinematic cutscenes, the shot-reverse-shot character dialogues can be skipped a line at a time whenever you've finished reading it. This gives player the freedom to speed through the more tedious dialogue while perhaps stopping and listening to the more interesting chit-chat, rather than facing the binary option of either sitting through minutes of listless banter or just skipping the entire exchange. We've all played games where we enjoy the story and dialogue, but there's just simply too much of it, and so being able to pick and choose what you skim through feels like it should be a basic feature in any modern RPG or RPG adjacent title. Number 2. Bullet time. Bullet time is a literal game changer of a mechanic that allows players to manipulate time one way or another, typically slowing things down to wreak more strategic havoc against enemies. Now, bullet time as a concept was inspired, of course, by the Matrix and John Woo movies, and popularized by the brilliant Max Payne, which allowed players to slow down gameplay to balletically fly through the air and blast bad guys right back to hell. In the 20+ years since, bullet time has appeared in just about every major game, from action to RPGs, platformers, and even racing games. It has been implemented in so many different and creative ways as well, such as with Super Hot, where enemies only move when you do, and beyond the fact that slowing things down often makes things easier for the player, it's just so damn cool to watch the carnage unfold in slow motion. Bullet time has been a crutch in even many mediocre games, because like pizza, it's tough to screw it up completely. I mean, just try and name a game that wasn't made better because of a bullet time mechanic. I'll wait. And number 1, Transmog gear. Transmogrification, better known as Transmog, is a common feature in MMORPGs, which allows players to change an armor's appearance without losing or changing any associated stats, perks, and so on. Basically, it represents an attempt to separate aesthetics from utility and ensure that players aren't left stuck with an ugly-looking piece of armor just because it has killer stats. Transmog was popularized by World of Warcraft and has since appeared in many AAA titles, including Destiny 2 and most recently God of War Ragnarok. Its implementation is rarely identical across titles. For instance, Ragnarok lets you change armor to resemble other armor in your inventory, but the end result is the same, in granting players greater freedom to define their character's look. In a gaming realm where aesthetic options are increasingly abundant, there's no reason why some version of Transmog shouldn't be a feature in any video game with a major emphasis on gear. Basically, let players look how they want to look. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 awesome mechanics that make all video games better. I hope you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Instagram, where it's @RetroJ, but the O is a 0. Hope to see you over there, my friends. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. Hope that you're treating yourself well with love and respect, because you deserve all the best things in life, alright? Like love, happiness, and success, and do not let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise. You are a massive ledge, and you deserve the bloody best. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.